So here we are at the tail end of the second year and the only other final full year of DCU Classics, or as it was now called, Signature Series from Mattel. And this was definitely heading towards the end of the line. And that's because basically sales were going down. And you can't really keep a line going when you don't have the sales to justify it. It's basically why Masters of the Universe Classics kept growing and getting SKUs added to it, and DCU Classics / Signature Series kept having SKUs taken away, like the oversized figures. Essentially, the higher the sales, the more tooling dollars you get for a line. The lower the sales, the less. It's kind of the tooling dollars are locked away, and well, that doesn't do well when you're trying to do a line with a huge variety of characters. It's not to say we didn't get tooling and we didn't get support from, Mattel and from, corporate. Of course we did. But they had to allocate funds based on how well the line was selling. And without a huge amount of tooling, we had to be very aware of our limitations because we wanted to avoid being in a really uncomfortable place.
What, like the back of a Volkswagen?
So finding ways to excite fans to subscribe to a line that was already not doing well, now that we had even less tooling, meant it was time that we had to put on our clever hats. So figuring out who we could do with very little tooling that would at least be exciting, have bright colors, bring closure to teams, those were our goals. And, for the resources we had, I'm really proud of how the line went. So to close off the second year, first up we had Freddy Freeman, otherwise known as Captain Marvel Jr. or Shazam Jr. For those of you not keeping track at home, Freddy Freeman, aka Captain Marvel Jr., is a character that goes all the way back to the 1940s and Fawcett Comics, the original publisher of Captain Marvel, who is also known as Shazam, because, well, we'll get into that in a moment. And Captain Marvel Jr. was not as much his sidekick, but a member of the Marvel family. And I was really excited to do him because it kind of closed off the core Marvel family in terms of the DCU 6-inch series, with Mary and Shazam. Oh, I just don't like calling him that. But we didn't do as good of a job as DC did when they had the entire family, because they even did Billy Batson and Dr. Nirvana and Hoppy, which was great. They even had Mr. Mind, who came as an accessory, so which we did inside Booster Gold's accessory, but that's not important right now. And like with the other characters in this family, we couldn't call them Captain Marvel or Mary Marvel, etc., etc. We had to call him Shazam on package for copyright reasons, because DC no longer owned the rights to the name Captain Marvel. It was now with this character. So that meant finding solutions, and the solution with Captain Marvel Jr. was simply using his real name, Freddy Freeman, much like Billy Batson is Captain Marvel, or Shazam. But he came out great, and the blue and the gold and the red really do pop, and using the Teen Buck body we had, we got a lot of mileage out of minimal tools. New cape, new head, that kind of thing. Alright, next up we had the Huntress. And she actually did break the tooling budget a bit. We had to allocate a lot of tooling to get to her. But again, we were trying to sell a subscription. So Huntress in DCU Classics goes all the way back to the very first character choice contest, where the Horsemen did images of what she could look like in the 6-inch line. And while she had many, many looks over the years, the Horsemen zeroed in on 2 of those that would probably look best as far as an adaptation from comic to toy. And we were definitely gravitating to kind of the modern look, not just because of how cool the costume looks, but we knew this was a look the fans were really going to appreciate. And to pull it off, it did mean giving her a lot more new tooled parts compared to some of the other figures. And it also certainly helped that she had a huge role on the Justice League Unlimited show, which had wound up very recently, so she was still fresh in everyone's mind, and we had done quite a few versions of her in that line, both as a single figure as well as 2 different 3-packs that had her, since she actually went through 2 different decos, a show-accurate deco and then more of a comic-accurate deco. She also showed up in Imaginext, too, although her costume wasn't exactly as sexy as it was in JLU and DCU classics, or Signature Series. And because she wasn't done in time to sell the sub, we put out the unpainted early model at Comic-Con because we really wanted to use her to sell the sub, not just because she had a lot of tooling, but, she was a really cool figure that fans had been wanting for years and was definitely at the top of most want lists. And whatever we could do to try to sell the sub, we were going to do. And, she came out great. She had her signature crossbow, and she's still one of the cooler figures, I think, in the entire line, not just the Signature Series. And all those, boots and wrist straps and arms and, belts, a lot of tooling. All right, next up was Ocean Master. A lot of people in the general public know Ocean Master a little better because of the Aquaman movie. Before so, he was really mainly known as an Aquaman villain, although he's definitely one of the more iconic Aquaman villains. Although I think the kind of problem with villains, some of the heroes in DC have huge rogue galleries. Aquaman, not so much. I mean, Ocean Master is definitely at the top, but he's at the top of a kind of a small pile. He's gotten some new villains over the years, like King Shark here, who seems to differ every time he's drawn, but he gets made as a lot of toys. Almost every DC line now includes King Shark, who, by the way, is clearly, Mako from Savage Dragon, right? How in the world is King Shark and Mako any different? I don't know why Eric Larson doesn't sue DC over this, but, probably because he's a polite guy. But come on, is that not King Shark? Anyway, the point being is King Shark may be very toyetic, but so is Ocean Master, and Ocean Master goes back much longer. He hasn't shown up in as many toys over the years, but he's still, he's very closely tied to Aquaman's origin, and this isn't the only version of Ocean Master that Mattel has done. There have been quite a few, including this Comic-Con pack to get people excited for the movie. But I still think the Signature Series 1 takes the cake as far as, especially with very little tooling. We had, new gauntlets, new belt, new cape, new head, and then using the male buck body. It just goes to show what you can do with very bright colors and minimal parts. You can really stretch those tooling dollars, and I'm so proud of the team and how they rose up to this task. All right, then following up with Ocean Master is Ra's al Ghul. Again, with the green and the sword and the cape, looks great in package. Another way of doing a fan-requested, fan-favorite character with very little tooling. It's like as each character went, we had less and less tooling. So much got sucked up as the line went by. We had so little to start with. Now, Ra's is a figure that does actually show up in toy form quite a lot, especially considering he's just kind of a guy or a guy in a suit. So, for a guy in a suit, he has a lot of gravitas. My introduction to him was the Batman animated series, where he is one of the show-stealing villains. He had a few toys in the Batman animated series line. The first one was a little bit more kid-oriented, but eventually he got a picture-perfect version of him in his suit and robe that was released late in the animated line as part of a box set that also included his daughter Talia and Batman and Robin as well for that kiddie, instant, what they call battle in a box feel. And unlike previous Mattel Ra's al Ghul figures, we could actually call this figure Ra's al Ghul on package because it wasn't tied to a hidden reveal in the movie, although we did actually get to do, the proper Ra's al Ghul movie figure once the, cat was out of the bag, if you will, years later. And as far as tooling, he was going to use your standard suit buck that had gotten us so much use over the years. I can't believe it started with Clark Kent back in the DC superhero days. I will also note that Batman 244 is probably my favorite Batman comic of all time. I love the duel between Ra's and Batman, and I'd actually really wanted to do a counterpart to Ra's al Ghul and do shirtless Batman with a sword, which which was meant to basically be Ra's dueling partner. Although since we weren't doing Ra's without his shirt, he was in his suit, that really wouldn't have made sense. So that idea was nixed. Plus, I was definitely concerned about, what fans would think of just doing, Batman without a shirt and a sword as a Signature Series figure. Yes, it would have saved on tooling, but while this image was definitely brought back in the animated series, I don't know if all fans love this storyline as much as I do, and just doing a weird variant of Batman in Signature Series. Oh, well, yeah, actually, I guess that brings us right into the next figure, doesn't it? A weird variant of Batman in the Signature Series. Yes, Batzarro, the figure that a lot of people say kind of sunk Signature Series and kept them from subbing for a third year. And I get that. He is a weird variant of Batman. He's got pale skin, he has no eye holes, his belt is on upside down, his bat symbol is upside down. And while he clearly, has comic book reference and he comes from the content, he's, basically an evil version of Batman, which is also kind of like Owlman, but that's not important right now. He's more Batman's, Batzarro. Batzarro is Superman's, counterpart from Batzarro World. But this was a figure that definitely was not a hit with fans. They were not happy. They kind of saw through the fact that there was very little tooling on this figure. I think it was like a new head only. The belt was just flipped upside down, unless I'm mistaken. So he had probably the least tooling. Although I'm surprised we never did a repaint in JLU like this. It would have worked really well, because we were always looking for repaints of Batman for that line. So Batman versus Batzarro, while it seemed like a great idea to continue his Rogues Gallery, not a hit with the fans. And I don't like to, knock any characters. I mean, obviously Batzarro has had other action figures before, but not that many. I think this was ours was the second one next to that DC Direct figure. Although there might be a Lego one. I didn't know if this was an actual Lego figure or a custom job. I'll have to do my research better next time. I'm sure people in the comments will point out. So how did Batzarro wind up in the line, despite the fact that he wasn't a fan favorite, and the fact that he, checked off that low tooling box that we had to hit because, with sales down, tooling was also being taken away and was sort of, locked up and away from us. Well, making toys is a collaborative art, much like movies, where you have to work with a team of designers and sculptors and graphic artists and packaging and licensors and executives. Everyone is kind of part of it, and there's definitely a lot of office politics. Batzarro was a figure that certain people on the team really, really wanted. And I will say I did make objections. I was definitely very reluctant to put him in there, basically for the same reason fans felt. I felt like he kind of, didn't feel like a real Batman figure. Although, it makes you kind of wonder, what if Batman hadn't seen a bat, but had seen a kangaroo? Would like an evil kangaroo figure have sold better than an evil Batman figure? Or would Batman have gone around dressed as a kangaroo? Would that have made a better toy? Well, that's a dream for another day. Who knows? Maybe it'd be Kangaroo Man. Either way, he made it into the line, and that was the end of year 2. And, yay.